I'm inviting our first speaker, Marlene Bartz from the European Commission, to share her presentation. Marlene, please.
Thank you, Susanna. Thanks for the welcome and thank you for the invitation. So it's actually good morning from Brussels, but I guess good afternoon to most of you. I'm working at the European Commission. I'm working in the unit that is in charge of the Marie Skłodowska-Curie actions, which I will refer to as MSCA. So we use the acronym because, well, Marie Skłodowska-Curie is slightly difficult to pronounce, especially if you're talking for 1 hour. So if I say MSCA, I mean Marie Skłodowska-Curie actions. And more specifically today, we will talk about the MSCA staff exchanges action, which used to be called RISE in the past, so Research and Innovation Staff Exchanges. So we've decided, for the sake of simplification, to shorten the name and just simply call it staff exchanges. I'll be doing most of the talking, but we also have a colleague from the Research Executive Agency present with me today, Brito, who will be answering most of the questions you might raise at the end of the session, because the Research Executive Agency is actually the agency that receives the applications, evaluates the applications, and decides to grant a project to successful applicants. So all the technical know-how is with Brito. So I'll start just with a more general overview, I think, because it's nice to have a little bit, an overview of the framework, the general framework of what the MSCA are and how they are located and which program they are located. The MSCA are part of our program, which is called Horizon Europe. So Horizon Europe is the EU's research and innovation framework program. It used to be called Horizon 2020 in the past. So we always work over 7-year cycles, programming cycles. So the last 7 years we had Horizon 2020, and now as of this year, and hopefully starting, I think, in 1 week, we will launch the so-called Horizon Europe program, which is a huge program for research and innovation. It's over 90 billion euros. And within that program, you can see here on the screen, it has 3 pillars. And in pillar 1, which is excellent science, here we have our actions. So the Marie Skłodowska-Curie actions, the MSCA, with a smaller budget, if you compare it to the overall budget, but still 6.6 billion euros for 7 years. As I said, we always work over 7 years. So 6.6 is for the whole duration of the program. Now, the Marie Skłodowska-Curie actions, as you can see, in pillar 1 are excellent science, and that's really the key word here. So we fund excellent researchers and research projects. So that's one of our key features. We fund individual researchers. We do support their training, so to develop certain skills and competences and improve, let's say, their career development. When I'm speaking of researchers, we cover all stages of careers. So we have actions for PhD candidates, so doctoral candidates, but we also have offer support for postdoctoral researchers, so more experienced researchers. We are what we call a bottom-up program, which is very important, meaning that it is the researchers and the applicants, the organizations that decide what they want to cooperate on, what topic, what discipline they want to carry out research on. So it is not us at the European Commission or the executive agency that says, okay, climate change is a priority, please carry out a project on climate change. No, so it is the individual researchers and organizations that decide to cover whichever topic they want. Also very important is that our program is very international, meaning that we go beyond just the EU, and that's why we're here today as well with ASEAN countries. So we also cover the rest of the world, and organizations and researchers from around the world can participate in our program. And actually, I think the MSCA, so Marie Skłodowska-Curie actions within Horizon 2020, so the previous program, they were the most international part. So we had the highest participation from non-European countries compared to all other actions in Horizon 2020. And we think that this will continue also in the future. Interdisciplinary is also cross-sectoral. So we have international, cross-sectoral or intersectoral. So, but by sector, we mean academic and non-academic. So we do fund cooperation between sectors, and then interdisciplinary. So between disciplines, we're trying to encourage really knowledge transfer between different scientific disciplines. Our program is also very attractive in terms of working and employment conditions of individual researchers. We have a strong impact on organizations themselves, who when they create a partnership, really they have long-lasting added or advantages through this cooperation, like new networks, etc. And then, of course, as I said, since we're cross-sectoral, so academic, non-academic, we also support a collaboration with the non-academic sector, meaning, for example, the industry, small and medium enterprises, etc. So this is a little bit an overview of the MSCA more horizontally, more broadly, just to put some figures on what I've just explained. So here you see statistics under Horizon 2020, so the previous 7 years from 2014 to 2020, where the budget was more or less the same as what we have now under the future program. So the numbers you see here will be probably the same in the future, slightly increased because we do have a bit more budget. And you see that it's quite a lot. So we funded over 65,000 researchers, including 25,000 PhD candidates. 37% of these were actually researchers from outside of the EU. So as I said, we're very international. The budget was 6.2 billion. So that was Horizon 2020. Now we have 6.6 billion euros, as I just explained. We don't only fund the mobility of researchers, so we're not an Erasmus program for researchers. We also fund the setup of doctoral programs, so really the establishment of doctoral networks and programs, and we funded over 1,000 of these, who then recruit PhD candidates and researchers to carry out research work. So we go beyond just a mobility program. I mentioned the strong collaboration with non-academic partners. So you can see that over 4,500 companies were supported in the past. And we also try to promote gender equality. And we're quite happy with the female participation, or participation of female researchers in the MSCA, which is nearly 50%. If we look at the policy priorities, so of course I said the MSCA is a bottom-up program, meaning that the topics of research are chosen freely by the applicants and then selected based on their excellence. But we do have, of course, let's say a political framework, a policy framework in which we operate, or in which our Horizon Europe program operates. And contributes to some of these policy objectives. So you might be familiar, at least the European participants here today should be familiar with what we call the European Research Area and the European Education Area, which is the framework we're working in within the EU to increase cooperation between member states on research and on education. And there's a number of very interesting initiatives going on. Of course, our programs also contribute to policy objectives, EU policy objectives, be they external, so on global cooperation, strategic cooperation with partners around the world. But also, for example, you have heard, I'm sure, or if you haven't, I'm happy to inform you about the European Green Deal, which is a new growth strategy of the EU to achieve climate neutrality by 2050. So this is one of the big priorities we're working in now. Also everything that's digital. So, you know, of course, digital and green, we call them the twin transitions. So these are two of the big priorities we have at EU level now, and to which our programs contribute. And then, of course, more researcher focus, the European Charter for Researchers and the Code of Conduct for the recruitment of researchers, which are very important within the EU and for cooperation with partners outside the EU. And then also one big priority that we have under this new program is open science and responsible research and innovation. And here on the slide at the bottom, you actually have a link to a publishing platform. So to make it easier for our projects and the researchers we fund to publish their research results and to also you know, benefit of peer review. So I encourage you to have a look at this website. These are the actions, so the MSCA actions, Marie Skłodowska-Curie actions, the famous A in the acronym. We have 5 of them. Today we'll go in detail in the staff exchange one, but in case you're not aware, or you might be aware, we also fund doctoral networks. So that's what I mentioned earlier. It's really programs, doctoral programs that are being set up by a consortium of universities. So you might be interested also in applying for that. Then we have postdoctoral fellowships. This one is a little bit different. As the name says, it's for postdoctoral researchers, so more experienced researchers who already have a PhD, and they apply. So it's one individual from anywhere in the world. So it could be from Malaysia, from Japan, from South Africa. So they apply together with normally a European partner organization to carry out some research, postdoctoral research. Staff exchanges, that's the one we're going to cover today, which are more collaborative projects between institutions in Europe and beyond. Co-fund, here the name is quite telling, so it's co-funding of doctoral and postdoctoral programs. So the EU gives additional money to existing or new programs that already exist, for example, in an EU member state, so that they can recruit more researchers. And then we have MSCA and citizens. Here it's more about promoting what we are doing, promoting research, reaching out to the public at large with some events. For example, the European Researchers' Night, which is quite famous. It's in Europe, loads of events bringing researchers closer to the public. Yes, so this is one of the activities that we have as well. Now, if we go to staff exchanges, which I think, first the calendar, important. I mentioned the different actions. Here you can see the call openings and the deadlines for applications. So maybe take a picture, or of course the slides will be shared after this event. Here you do see a disclaimer. So the Horizon Europe work program, so that's the document, the legal document that we work with, hasn't yet been launched, but will be very soon, hopefully. So on the 22nd of June, we should see our first calls opening, meaning that the documents will be accessible online and participants will be able to, or applicants will be able to fill in the applications and then to submit them by the indicated deadlines. Here you can see staff exchanges. You still have some time, don't worry. So you're not, the call is not opening yet in June. It will be open in October this year with the deadline in March. So you do have still quite some time to prepare an application, to find partners that you want to cooperate with, etc. And you also see an indication of the budget. So 6.6 billion euros, that was for the 7 years. Here you can see the amount for the different actions for one call for 1 year. And doctoral networks, so the setup of joint programs is more or less half of our budget, 50%, which is big. And then you can see postdoctoral fellowships and staff exchanges, etc. So we have around 70 million euros for this first call of staff exchanges. And hopefully some of that money will go to some of you here today. So staff exchanges is actually the most international action under the MSCA, which is also why it makes sense to promote it a lot outside of Europe. So we're very grateful to the colleagues in Euraccess for organizing this type of events, so that we can further explain this to stakeholders outside Europe. It is, I wouldn't say the easiest action under the MSCA, but definitely the most flexible one. So we really wish to encourage creativity and entrepreneurial spirits. So I think implementation-wise, it is less heavy than, for example, setting up a doctoral program, because here we talk more about the exchange of stuff. Here you see the main objectives. They are quite similar to the other MSCA actions. So if you're interested in staff exchanges, this here also applies a little bit to the other actions. Of course, I mean, I mentioned it earlier, this III, the first international, intersectoral, interdisciplinary mobility of research and innovation staff. So actually staff exchanges, as the name tells, works through the exchange of staff between institutions involved in the project. And these exchanges, we call them secondments. So yeah, a secondment of a staff member to another institution. Now the idea is, of course, why are we funding these exchanges, is to transfer knowledge between the institutions that are involved in the project, and well, ideally to help people or the staff involved to turn the ideas into services, products, etc. It is also actually staff exchanges is one has proven to involve a lot of the non-academic sector. So of course, I mean, when we talk of academic sector, for example, universities, but then we try more and more to encourage collaboration with the non-academic sector, including SMEs. So if you have partners already in the private sector, in the non-academic sector, do not hesitate to involve them as well. And then, of course, well, given that we are an international program, what we try to do is to strengthen cooperation across the globe. So between institutions in Europe and around the world. Here you have the expected outcomes. So for staff members and for organizations, they're pretty much in line with what I've said until now. So of course, if you are an individual staff member being sent to an institution in the project somewhere else, the idea, of course, is to for you to develop new skills and competences, which should increase your employability and career prospects. So within your institutions, or if you're thinking of moving maybe to the non-academic sector or vice versa, so it should enhance your career prospects, because as I said, we are an excellence program. So I think there's a sort of a seal of excellence linked to our projects. I said it earlier, but also I think it's quite rewarding for individual staff members that to see their ideas being converted into concrete products or processes or services. Also, people will be, of course, exposed internationally. As I said, this action is very international. So this will, or being international, should increase the staff members' networking and communication opportunities worldwide. For organizations, I think it's also pretty obvious. What are the added value? What is the added value? So it's a transfer of knowledge between institutions, but also across sectors and across countries. So here the III, international, intersectoral, interdisciplinary networks. So I think one of the big added values, advantages is the networks that you will be able to build using these projects. And of course, it should increase your research and innovation capacity. These are the more concrete activities. So what we saw were the outcomes, the objectives. Here you have, okay, what does it mean? What can I do? So you can send or host staff members. Whatever activities you implement, there needs to be one of these 3 dimensions. So it has to be either across sectors, always across borders. So the exchange of staff within the same country obviously is not possible, and it should be between different disciplines. But we'll see that in a minute. You can fund with the money given under the project networking activities, workshops, attendance at workshops, conferences, etc. And then, of course, well, the idea is to have, to help the staff members acquire new skills and develop their career perspectives. Who can participate? So the application, I told you the deadline is in March next year. So the application has to be submitted by a consortium. So it's not one organization that applies. It has to be a consortium, meaning a group of organizations of at least 3. So the group has to be at least 3 independent legal entities in 3 different countries. And out of these 3 countries, 2 should be in the member state or Horizon Europe associated country. So yes, I mean, make sure, that's why also this action is the most international one, because actually within the 3, you could have non-EU member states or Horizon Europe associated countries. But so this is very important. 3 organizations have to apply together. Organizations outside of EU member states or Horizon Europe associated countries cannot be beneficiaries, direct beneficiaries, but partners in the project. So you can be a full partner in the project. And important rule here, the second box on the screen, if organizations are from the same sector, so let's imagine a university and another university, so we have only universities involved, then there must be actually at least one organization from a 3rd country. So that's good for you, for example, organizations from ASEAN, from the ASEAN region. But yeah, if you have questions on this, I know it can be a little bit confusing. It's not that easy. So feel free to ask during the Q&A, and then I and Brito can give you more examples if you want on what a consortium can look like. And then we also have, I think, 4 testimonies of projects. So they will be able to tell you more concretely what this looks like. Here is the eligibility conditions. So for the seconded staff members, who can be seconded. So once you have the project, who can you send and host? So it's any staff contributing to research and innovation activities. So it could be a researcher, it could also be administrative staff, managerial staff, or technical staff. And this is one of the, let's say, the differences with the other MSCA actions, which target more researchers. Here, it's broader, staff members. So they have to be involved in research and innovation activities, but they don't have to be researchers themselves. If we talk of researchers, then any stage of their career, so it could be PhD candidates or postdoctoral researchers. And then at the bottom, you can see that the only condition is really that they have been engaged in research or innovation activities, at least for 1 month before being sent abroad. For the duration, so if we go to the top right, each staff member can be sent for a period between 1 month to 12 months. So the maximum is 12 months. However, the secondment can be split. So it doesn't have to be 12 months in one go. You could go 6 months and then 6 months again another time for the same staff member. The condition here, and this is important, is that staff are full-time devoted to the action. So if you go abroad for 6 months, you should be spending your 6 months to work on the staff exchange project, not half time on this and maybe half time on another project. And also, I guess it's a bit evident, but still important to mention is that after the secondment, so let's say after the 12 months or after the 6 months, the staff should return to the sending institution. That's why we call it an exchange. So you come back to your institution also to help spread the experience in your institution, so that there's a stronger impact of these projects. Here a little bit the conditions, what the project looks like. So the duration, one project is 4 years from start to end of the project. Of course, after the 4 years, there should not be any secondments anymore. Regarding the number of people you could send or person months, so it's maximum 360 person months. So we call per person per month, which you can then allocate as you wish. So maybe one staff gets 12 months, another staff gets 6 months, or only 2 months. So this is up to you to see how you want to split the time on the different staff members. The secondment itself, as I said, is 1 to 12 months, up to you to choose, and interdisciplinary secondment. So this is new for those of you who are familiar with the RISE, so the previous action under Horizon 2020, where actually it was not possible to have exchanges in Europe between the same sector. So it was not possible to send a staff from a university to another university in Europe. We have decided to be a little bit more flexible here. So it is possible, however, it has to be interdisciplinary. So you cannot send one staff from the same discipline to another university in the same discipline. So it has to be interdisciplinary between different disciplines. But this is for exchanges within Europe, within the same sector. And the call, deadlines, I mentioned the one for 2021 earlier. Here you already have the dates also for 2022. In case you're interested, but you would like to have more time to come up with a project proposal and apply. So yes, here you have both deadlines, always in March, and the budget is more or less the same. So around between 70 and 80 million euros. Here, this is probably the interesting part. So what are we talking about money-wise? So this is the money allocated within a project. You can see it's split in two. So we have the contribution, the money that goes to the staff members. And then we have the money that goes to the institution. So the institutional unit contribution that goes to the institutions involved in the project. So if we look first at the left, so what does the staff member get? So there's two things. One, the special needs allowance, that's only if applicable. So that's only for staff that have a disability. So this depends on the staff member that you're sending. But then on the left, we have the top-up allowance. So the staff member will receive a contribution per month. So we talk of person months of 2,300 euros, which we call a top-up allowance. So this is very important. It's a top up. So it's on top of the salary of the staff. So you can see this little box at the bottom with a light bulb. So the organizations, you have to continue paying the salary of the staff while he is on a secondment. And on top of that, he can get 2,000, or he will get 2,300 euros. So that's also why it is a very attractive action to participate in. And this top-up allowance, it should cover the travel, the accommodation, and then the subsistence costs during the secondment. Then, if we go to the right, to the institutional unit contributions. So here, this is, as I said, the money that goes to the institution for 1 person month, so linked to the secondment of 1 researcher. And here you have research, training, and networking contribution. I think the name says it all. So it's for the training and the networking activities, as well as the research expenses linked to the project and the individual researcher. And then we also have the management and indirect contribution on the right, which is 1,000 euros per person month. So this is more for the beneficiaries' additional costs, such as personnel costs to implement the project. So here you have a little bit an idea of the money that you would receive. I mentioned it earlier, the maximum person months that a project can get is 360. So let's say that you apply for 360 months and you're granted 360 months times the contribution that you can see here. I think that's more or less 1.6 million euros for one project. So for the 4 years of the project. And then maybe Brito can explain later on. So the money usually goes to the beneficiaries, but with a consortium agreement that you will sign within your project, it could be agreed that, you know, part of the money is transferred to the partners involved in the project. Here, this is just the link at the bottom. You can see on where to find the call. So if you want to apply, you have to go to the Funding and Tender Opportunities portal. Everything is there, all the information about the call, all the documents linked to the call that you have to read, etc. Everything is on there. So it's all centralized and quite easy to find information. As I said, the call will open only in October. So if you go now, you will not find anything on that website. So you have to wait until the call is open in October. And then, well, you submit your application, or the consortium submits the application via the Funding and Tender Opportunities portal. There are award criteria. So how do we, or the Research Executive Agency, select the projects? So this here is for all MSCA actions, not only staff exchanges. We always have a look at the excellence, the impact, and the quality of implementation of the project. You can see that the weighting is different. So as I said, we are the excellence pillar of Horizon Europe, meaning that we give the most importance to the excellence aspect of projects. If we look at staff exchanges more specifically, I mean, don't worry, it's very small print, but you will receive the presentation afterwards, and this will also be published in, it is in the work program. So when you apply, please read these very carefully and address all of the, I mean, you can see some of them are in bigger print. So of course you have to be very thorough to, you know, explain the methodology, the interaction between the different institutions, who does what, etc. So this is very important, especially excellence. As I said, 50% of your mark will be focusing on excellence, and then of course you also have the impact and the quality of the implementation of your project. So yes, make sure that you address all of these in your application. And then, well, once you submit your application, it's a research executive agency with the help of experts that will assess your application and give it a certain ranking. There are a lot of guidance documents. I mean, I just presented more or less the information that you have available in the MSCA work program. You can see it here, but there's more, okay? So you can easily find more information on how to submit a successful application. So the work program should be your Bible, read it, learn it by heart, work program and annexes. There will be a guide for applicants, so which give additional information on top of what is in the work program. So please read that as well. You will have the proposal templates, an annotated grant agreement explaining really the different sections of the grant agreement. There are, you know, FAQs, etc., etc. If you have questions, you should submit them via the research inquiry service. So anything regarding funding, eligibility rules, etc. These are just some useful links. So the MSCA website, where you can find all the novelties, the different actions, explanations, etc. The Marie Curie Alumni Association, very very interesting work that they're carrying out. So it's all the participants, most of them, who have done a project, MSCA project, are represented by the MSCA. They do lots of interesting studies, workshops, etc., etc. So I suggest that you follow them. Also on social media. As I said, the portal for the documents, and then Euraccess. I mean, they are the ones organizing the event today. They're very knowledgeable, and they have what we call the Euraccess portal. So this is a little bit less relevant for staff exchange, but if you want to apply for a PhD or for a postdoctoral position, then all the vacancies, all the job opportunities are listed on the Euraccess portal from the MSCA and beyond. So I mean, it's really a big portal with loads of opportunities on there. And I think that's it from my side. Thank you very much for your attention.